The rear end inspection and service is something you're going to want to do almost immediately after acquiring any 1986 to 1995 Mercedes Benz. I see these get neglected. The fluid hardly ever gets changed, and a lot of times you'll see leaks, and so it is with this 94 E320. I've got some rear end fluid leaking out, so you want to determine right away, if you see this type of wetness, where that leak is coming from. Well, I can move forward here, and it's definitely not coming out of the pinion seal. That's good. And it's not coming out of the plugs. I've checked those for tightness, but it is coming out of the seals for the half shafts here. Those axles have a big round seal. They're not too difficult to change, but I'm not sure how bad that is actually leaking. A lot of times, if you're just getting a little bit of seepage like this, it might be okay. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, check the fluid. Anytime you see this, you want to make sure you're not running low on rear end fluid, and that could be really problematic and expensive to fix if you have to change the rear end. So I'm just going to move over here, and we're going to pull the plug out. The plug is located right up here. This is the drain plug is right here. The inspection or fill plug on many of these is located about a third of the way up on this side here. So we'll pull the plug out, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about inspecting the fluid and how to determine whether or not it should be changed. Using a 14 millimeter hex socket, I've removed the top fill plug, and now I'm going to use my finger. Believe it or not, the finger works really well for checking level. You should just be able to put your finger in there and hook it a little bit, and I should be able to see some fluid on the end of my finger. All right, let's reach up in there. I'm just going to touch it down a little bit. Oh, sure enough. See that? This rear end's totally full. So that tells me one of two things. Either the car has been recently serviced, or this leak isn't all that bad. Because once again, trying to fix every leak in an old car so that nothing is wet anywhere may not be particularly cost effective. Basically, a little seepage here and there is okay. You just don't want it dripping on the floor. All right? So not knowing the history of the car, not knowing any of the maintenance that was done, it's obvious this car has been well maintained. It has new front brake rotors. It has new front pads. It has good rear pads. You can see other areas, new battery, new tires. So obviously the owner cared about the car. But I'm looking at this fluid and thinking, I bet you somebody's filled this up. Somebody who has been doing good service on this car may have seen the leak and said, well, I should check the fluid. So let's talk now about the quality of the fluid. Should I change the fluid? How do I know how old it is? Because I don't have any record showing when it was last changed. What I like to do is use one of our little curved tip syringes that we have around the shop that we sell in a lot of our kits on my website. I'm just going to put this curved tip syringe up in there, and we're going to suck out a little bit. You don't need much. And then what I can do is use a light, and I'm going to shine the light on the back side of this fluid. I don't know if you can see this in the video, but this is pretty clean fluid. If it's dark brown, that's a good indication you need to change it, okay? The other thing is a smell test. Now this test may or may not work depending upon the type of fluid in there. Now the other thing I'm going to do is try to determine if this has synthetic fluid in it or whether it has regular, 80-90 weight. Now I like putting synthetic fluid in these older rear ends, but not knowing what this is, well, let's see. Let's smell it. Now this takes experience. Synthetic rear end fluid, like you see here, hardly has any smell at all. In fact, it has kind of a little bit of a sweet smell. But the regular petroleum-based rear end fluid has kind of a noxious smell. And if it's old, it's really obnoxious. So if you reach your finger up in there and you smell it and it about knocks you over, it's probably a pretty good indication it needs to be changed also. But I can tell from the smell of this fluid that it is petroleum-based. It's not synthetic. So, once again, that comes from experience. So I can't say, well, Kent, what do you mean? How do you smell? You're going to maybe get an old rear end and that you know has Dino oil and smell it for a while. You can also tell the difference on new fluid here. You can tell the difference between this fluid here and the synthetic here by just smelling them. It's not so pronounced as it is when it gets old, but I'm pretty confident this has petroleum-based rear end hypoid lube in it, and that's probably what I will put in it if I needed to fill it up. Now I don't need to fill it up, but I do want to change it to synthetic. And at the same time, I'm going to install a magnetic drain plug. I feel that every rear end should have a magnetic drain plug in it because there's no filter in there. So if you have metal particles running around inside the ring and pinion, you know, it'd be better if they were down stuck on a magnet, right, than floating around in those gears. So this is something we do carry on my website. We have a special made rear end magnetic drain plug just for Mercedes Benz that we carry. So this is going to happen on this car, but it's not going to happen today. And you're going to say, well, Kent, why aren't you going to do that today? Well, if I install a magnetic drain plug, I'm going to have to take and drain the whole rear end. So I'm not going to do that today because I'm going to wipe this down and I'm going to drive this car for about 30 days, and I'm going to keep track of how bad this leak actually is. Now, if the leak's real bad, then I'm going to have to pull the axles out and change the seals. So you see why I'm not going to do the fluid change today or put in the magnetic drain plug today. We're going to wait. So what we're going to do now is clean this rear end up. Going to drive the car for 30 days, and at that point, I'm going to come back in part 2, and we're going to talk about how bad this leak actually is, what we may or may not need to do to fix it, and then we'll show you how we're going to put synthetic lubricant in and add that magnetic drain plug.